Hey everyone, it's Trader Rob. Well, the long wait is over. Here is my complete trading strategy on how I incorporate my levels and most importantly, how I incorporate the volume profile into my winning setups, how I'm able to find such precise sniper entries with the proper stop loss area and the reasoning behind my take profit 1 and take profit 2 levels, all coming up right after the intro. As always, nothing that I state on my channel is financial advice. Trading futures or any type of trading is risky business. Any capital that is put out there is at risk for loss. All right, so here it is, guys. I know this has taken me a while. To be honest with you, there's a few things that make this really tricky. One, I'm in market replay right now, so what I could do is I can load my volume composite profile that I use for my trades for that particular day, which the setup that I'm currently going to go over is the one from August 7th. I posted that one August 7th. No, down here, right here, 8-7. This is a long entry at 23.10 that I posted in my signal service. So we can get an accurate representation of what the profile looked, because obviously this looks different now. I wanted to show it as the day that I saw the setup. Now the tricky part is one, I'm obviously going to be switching into a few different time frames here. It does take a little bit longer to load in market replay. It's just, I don't know why it's really laggy on NinjaTrader. And second of all, my volume profile for the actual day, I cannot load in playback. So I'm going to really try to dial in on the composite volume profile, going down to the probably to the 5-minute time frame, which should be good enough for you guys to see. But if you're able to, obviously Ninja's got this tool for order flow volume profile, and that one is something that you can set from a start time to an end time, or you could just have it start at 8 or 8:30 Central Time. Personally, I like to start mine at 8 a.m. And then just have that kind of expand throughout the day through price action. And that gets very detailed. So that gets a lot more granular. It really helps with entries and stops. But this volume profile here should do the trick for us. So this is how I would start off pretty much any setup. Okay, so before I even draw out my levels, as you guys know, I give out my levels each and every morning. Those are specifically 5 and 15-minute time frames. So I've got a 15-minute level, which are always blue solid lines, and I have a 5-minute level that I come up with that are the dotted lines. To be honest with you, I don't want to go into too much into detail on how I actually come up with those levels. There's a whole entire video for that. But the premise of it is pretty simple. I'm looking for an area, something like up here. You see how we have a pretty strong uptrend here, and then we get a good pullback from there. Obviously something in the market, in this case it was a lack of volume up here, but it's something in the market just doesn't roadblocks price action. And then you get a pretty strong reaction to the downside, almost looks like a V. And what I like to do, what I've kind of trained myself the last probably 3 years, is just to put the level where the two bodies intersect. So where the up candle and the down candle intersect. I'm not really interested in the wicks, even though the wicks will come into play once I start to narrow down for an actual entry. Definitely could be in a wick, but this is what I like to, this is how I've always mapped out my levels. They always seem to respond extremely well. And obviously we're on a 60-minute right now, which is where I start. But you want to find locations on the 15 or the 5-minute that you have this type of reaction to, and that you break structure. Okay, so if you're able to break structure, it's going to be even a much stronger level for you up here. It's almost one of my requirements now is for there to be some type of structure broken either on the 5 or the 15-minute. So let me just delete that. So that's kind of the premise on how I come up with levels. Again, there's a video in the description below that goes very detailed into how I come up with my actual levels. I've got a separate video on how I incorporate volume profile, and then what today's video is for, honestly, is just to put them kind of both together. So if I was to come up on my charts like I did that day, I'm going to be looking for super high volume nodes. Okay, so areas in the chart on the volume profile that have for me, my volume profile is on the left. Some people have it on the right. Doesn't matter. It's personal preference as to where you want to place it. But I would say that this node right here is your biggest, it's your biggest node or biggest bulk of volume on this chart right now. Okay, so this on the 60-minute is where I start. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, and that's where I know that we're going to have some pretty damn good reaction if we come back down and test this area. But again, this is kind of a big area to trade from. Okay, I'm not trading blind. I like to, really come up with some sniper entries. So then, once I've established the area of the volume profile that I'm interested in trading, I will then go back down to the 15-minute. And sorry, it's going to take a little bit here for it to load. My computer's super blazing fast, and I've got a good internet connection. I just don't really know what's going on. But yeah, either way. All right, so now I'm on the 15-minute, right? And we're in that highlighted area from the 60-minute volume profile so that I can see it now on the 15-minute. And what am I looking for? So I'm looking for a level, okay? That's to start off with. I'm looking for a level. Well, we easily get a level right here. Okay, and that's sitting at 23,201. Now that was not my entry for the for that signal. The entry for that signal was at 23,210.25. So I mean, to the tick is how I like to almost get to my entries, and you're going to see how. So what I do is after I find my 15-minute level, okay, which is my solid blue line here. I want to look at the volume profile as to where that level kind of sits, okay? And I want to think to myself, is this an area that I'd like to take an entry of? And right off the bat, for me, it would not be something that would be super interesting right here, okay? Because we would have as the market, just pretend like water's cascading down these volume profiles. Obviously, if we're looking for a short, it would be water going up, which that doesn't happen with gravity. But on this example, let's just pretend that water's flowing down on the volume profile. And I'd like to find some areas where water's going to have a big ripple or obviously have some resistance in coming down. And again, if water was coming down this area and it was to drop off from here, the water would, come straight down. Okay, so these pockets in here are areas where market might want to move very quickly. It doesn't have to, but it will most of the time move pretty quickly through these big pockets. What it's looking for is this guy, and this guy, which right here, obviously this is my, on the volume profile, I've got my high, on my high volume nodes at the most, where the biggest peak is at, I get this golden line. So that's just drawn in by the indicator. So that I know that this is, another area right here, which this line sits at 23,190. Again, 20 something points away from my entry. So it's not like I'm just using these lines as an entry. That is absolutely not the case. But it's all building a case as to I'm interested now in this area here because I've got this 15-minute level that fits exactly what it is that I'm looking for in a move. It broke structure right here, and it was a big impulsive move to the upside. So now let's refine it even further. Okay, so this is, remember, 23,201 is this level right here. 23,210 is my actual entry level that I'm going to eventually find. So now let's go down to the 5-minute and let's see what we can see. Again, sorry, it's going to take a few. Oh, that was not too bad. I will load it quicker. All right, let's get price action as to when it left this area. So now I want to take a look at the volume profile, and as it's getting more detailed, okay, this is where the details of the entry and the take profits start to kind of come into play. So, and again, if this tool would have worked in playback, the volume profile for the daily, I would have marked from 8 a.m. right here to about 10 a.m. This is the part that I would like to see because I'm very interested in a trade in this high volume area. So, and that profile will then, you can break that down into however many levels you want, but you can get very granular, very detailed as to entries and stops. But this is going to do a good enough job for us right now. All right, so now let's take a look at the volume profile and let's see what we see. We've got a pretty low area of volume right here. We start to increase volume right here, so we've got a peak. I'm interested in this peak. So this peak is at about 23,215, okay? I'm interested. I got a higher peak right here, though, that sits at about right at the top, 23,207, right? Let's see if I can open this up just a little bit more. There we go. Sorry. Right at the top of this peak. Nope, that's not the peak. This was the first one. I'm sorry, 23,15. Let's see where we got here. 23,206. We've got another, kind of a peak right there. But before that, right here is an area. Right here is an area that I would be interested in. And let me just show you, let me just kind of explain to you why. So you've got a peak right up here that is not as big as this kind of area right here. Okay, so this would be an area that I would be interested in an entry. And when I show you the actual trade, you're going to say, well, yeah, you could have taken this one and you would have hit your TP 1 and 2 for 20, 30 points off of this one as well. But the entry is one equation. The second part of the equation is also, I need a value, I need an area to put my stop loss in an area where I feel like I've got a relatively good amount of defense. And then I want a quick area of liquidity or volume that I can take at least my TP1 for sure, and then hope for my TP2 or more. So this right here would be an area that I would be interested in, which is where I came up with the 23,210, because now if I look at my stop loss from the actual signal that day, my stop loss is 23,201. Bigger stop loss than I usually have. If you're on my signal thing, stop loss is usually on the NQ is about 8 or 9 points. This one was obviously a little bit bigger. But let's plot that stop loss, 23,201.50. So 23,201.50. And then I'm going to put this one in red. Okay, this one I'm going to, just so it matches up with everything that I do, 23,210. Actually, it wasn't 23,210. It was 23,210.25. There's an extra tick in there just to get right at that ledge right there. All right. So what do we see now? Now we've got an entry. Okay, that I could have made a case to have an entry here. Okay, don't get me wrong. There could be a case right there. And again, when I show you the chart, this entry right here would have also been a winner. We almost had to invalidate this trade because of this little node right here. But I will show you. So, and then I've got an area in between. So now how did I come up with my stop loss? Okay, well, from here, I've got a buffer zone, so an area where volume is peaking out. Okay, so I know that I've got a relatively good level of defense right here. And then it starts to drop down into this low volume area in this high volume node. Everything is relative to, I say low volume, but it's an actual in an area that has extreme high volume. We're just looking at it right now, extremely detailed. And now I've got this area right here as my defense. Okay, so price action would have to come through my entry, which we hope it taps into the entry, would have to come churn through this volume right here, come right back down, probably in an area where it doesn't want to necessarily get to. What I was thinking in my head was volume would want to come right back and tap into this area to balance out the volume right here. So this is an area where I start to generate where I'm thinking, okay, the market's got a relatively easy time, would have an easy time to get into my take profit one. And my take profit one for that trade was at, let's do this green, was at 23,216.50. And there you go. So that one is going to sit right above, right at this ledge here of this high volume area. Okay, so it's an area that I feel like I've got a pretty damn easy time to get into this trade. Now, take profit two is super fun because if it does hit my take profit one, okay, which has got a very high, let's say an 85 or a 90% chance of hitting my take profit one. I don't know, it could be even a little higher, but let's just say 85% to be conservative. Then what looks really interesting to me is what do we see on the volume profile after this TP1, okay? We know that we had an extremely strong move from this little tiny region, okay? This 10-point region that we're trying to dissect super strong. Well, now you've got a kind of a free-for-all here, okay, right? So, I mean, this is an area that if I get TP1, let's find an area where I can relatively find very easy to get TP2, which my TP2 for that trade came in at, let's get this guy green, dash dot dot, and that came in at 23,223. Okay, so right here, right as before the volume starts to really drop off, okay, so it's sitting on this ledge of this bigger ledge right here, it's easy. It's an easy spot for the market wanting to go test, and it might fly through here, which I think that day it did. The day that it retested, I think it probably would have given us in total like 30, 40 points, maybe even more, but it definitely was perfectly easy to find our take profit one and two. Now, as I've always told you guys in my videos, I'm not necessarily looking for risk to reward is not the most important, is not the number one filter first for a trade, okay? It is important to the point where some setups become B or C setups because the risk to reward isn't that fantastic. And sometimes the trades don't make sense based on that, but it's not my number one criteria. Well, my number one criteria is I'm looking for areas that I have defense between my entry and an easy pocket of volume that the market wants to come and sweep. Okay, so if we go back down to let's go back to the 15-minute just to kind of see what this would look like. I hope that doesn't mess anything up. No. Okay. So now let's blow this up here a little bit. So remember where my level was. We're all in agreement that this highlighted gray area was the area of the biggest volume in that entire chart. Okay. So it's definitely an area that the market's going to be very interested in. We then moved down, that was from the 60-minute. So we moved down to the 15-minute. We found our level, okay, where I would normally just put my level at. That's an area where I think that there's going to be a rejection from. Did I use that level as my entry? No, I'm actually using that level now as my stop loss, okay? And if we look at it from right here, the entry, this blue line, which is the 23, 210, 25, where is it sitting at? It's sitting right at this perfect little node, at this perfect little volume node right here, where price action just have an easy time to come through and then be met with resistance. Hey, let's go find some volume that we can go play with right above here. And right before it drops off big time, I don't want this huge move all the way to the upside. I would love to have it, don't get me wrong, but that's not what I'm looking for. If I can get 15 points out of the NQ, I'm as happy as a clam, okay? And then if we go into the chart for that day, so here's another thing. The signal was given on the 7th of August. The market didn't come back to this area till the 20th, until August 20th, 13 days later, and it still just plays out as perfect as a clam. There's our entry right here. Any drawdown? No, zero drawdown on this trade. Just easy time. You know, as I said, we're going to get some resistance because remember that, if you guys remember that one little node that I was showing you guys that was a kind of an issue, well, that was this node right here, okay, where it came down and came right back up, okay, but did not have the same power as this level right here where the market just shot up big time from there. So that is what I am looking for in the volume profile, and I'm hoping that this might help you. I'm sure it's going to probably give a lot more questions, and as I get time, I promise you people, I will start to give you guys some more videos that explain this exact same concept now with the entire picture kind of built in. And if you're interested, I give out my new weekly bands and levels, which now you guys can hopefully understand. If I go back to the 60-minute, sorry, I know this video is going to be a little bit on the longer side, but these areas right here, this is the one I'm obviously the most interested in, which is where the perfect trade came out of. But I can find signals out of, I'm looking for those big volume nodes to start. Then I'm looking for my levels on the 15 or 5 if I can find one good. And then I'm refining it with the volume profile to try to find, and it's going to take time. It's not something that's going to be like instant, but the more you start to play around with it, the more that I just don't see any other way of trading it. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of strategies that work, okay, that they don't even look at volume profile. But the one thing I will say is the traders that I see that are the most consistently profitable, they always have this volume profile up on the chart. And for the first couple of years of my trading career, just never could figure it out. Yeah, I could see, point of control, low volume, low value areas, but I just couldn't put it all together. And finally, it clicked. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's what I'll tell you. So if the weekly levels that I give out to you guys on Sunday, if you guys go to my website, which is www.robstrades.com, you can go in and put your name and your email in there, and every Sunday I'll send you an email with all of my weekly bands and all my tradable levels for that coming week. Hopefully you guys can, and then on my Discord, I still give out my daily levels every single day. Okay, so these are the same levels that we were just talking about right here. Maybe hard to see. This is a 15-minute level, so it's on the 15-minute chart. This is what I'm looking for. Break of structure, where the green bar, red bar kind of intersect, the bodies intersect. That's a level. Now, is it necessarily ooh, that's nice right there. Look at that right there. That's an area. That's an area that you should definitely be looking at. And again, I think that, if you look at the Discord, and each morning I give them out, try to do them on yourself, do the levels on your own, come back, compare them to mine. Got it. Pop up the volume profile on your chart. Got it. Now just look at how price action reacts and where on the volume profile you start to see rejections consistently. That's all I got for you. Happy trading, everyone.